The cold air inside the cavernous arena was thick with anticipation, vibrating with the low, guttural murmurs of the Zargathian spectators. Rows upon rows of scaled faces glistened under the pale light, their slit-pupilled eyes fixed on the center of the arena. They leaned forward, their leathery lips curling to reveal sharp fangs, eager for the spectacle about to unfold. High above the blood-stained sand, the overlords lounged on their crystal thrones. Draped in flowing robes that shimmered in hues of emerald and gold, their faces were carved from stone, emotionless as they surveyed the scene. To them, this was merely a ritual, a reminder of their power over the lesser creatures of the galaxy. In the center of the arena stood Amara, a human child of 8. Her tangled brown hair framed her dirt-streaked face, and her wide green eyes flickered with defiance. She was small and fragile, dwarfed by the vastness of the arena, but her shoulders were squared, her chin held high. She would not cry. She would not show fear, not to them. A heavy chain was fastened around her ankle, the metal cold and unforgiving against her skin. It was bolted to the ground, preventing any hope of escape. Amara tugged at it once, but the iron did not budge. She knew better than to struggle. It would only entertain them more. The crowd hissed, a collective breath of anticipation washing over her. Their eyes gleamed with excitement, their claws tapping impatiently against the metal railings. They were hungry for violence, and today, Amara was the sacrifice. A voice echoed through the arena, amplified by unseen speakers. "Bring out the beast." The words reverberated off the metallic walls, sending a shiver down Amara's spine. She tightened her fists, her fingernails digging into her palms. She could feel the icy fingers of fear crawling up her back, but she forced herself to stand tall. Fear is power. Her father's words echoed in her mind. Never let them see you afraid. With a deafening clang, a massive gate at the far end of the arena began to rise. The chains groaned under the weight, dust and sand cascading from the ancient metal. Beyond the darkness of the opening, something stirred, its presence heavy and menacing. A growl rumbled through the air, low and thunderous, vibrating through Amara's bones. Her heart skipped a beat, but she held her ground, her eyes fixed on the shadows. From the darkness, the beast emerged. It was colossal, its body covered in scales that shimmered in shades of midnight blue and black, reflecting the dim light like polished obsidian. Muscles rippled beneath its armored hide, its limbs thick and powerful, ending in claws as sharp as blades. Its tail lashed behind it, leaving deep grooves in the sand. But it was the creature's face that took Amara's breath away. Its head was massive, crowned with jagged horns that curved backward, giving it a regal yet terrifying appearance. Its mouth was lined with rows of razor-sharp teeth, glistening with saliva. But its eyes were the most unnerving. They glowed with an eerie yellow light, slitted pupils narrowing as they locked onto her. The air grew heavy, suffocating, as the beast took its first step forward, its massive paw sinking into the sand. The ground trembled beneath its weight, a low growl escaping its throat as it bared its fangs. Amara's legs quivered, but she did not back away. She would not give them the satisfaction of seeing her run. Her heart pounded in her chest, echoing in her ears, but she stood her ground, her eyes fixed on the beast. The crowd roared in excitement, their shrieks and hisses piercing the air. They chanted in their guttural language, their voices rising in unison. "Feed the beast! Feed the beast!" The overlord on the central throne rose, his robes flowing around him like liquid gold. His face was sharp, his eyes cold and calculating. He raised his skeletal hand, silencing the crowd with a single gesture. His voice was cold, devoid of mercy. "This human child shall serve as nourishment for our great beast," he declared, his tone regal and commanding. "Let her life end with purpose." Amara's blood ran cold, but she refused to look up at him. She would not let him see her fear. She kept her gaze locked on the beast, her body tensed, ready to run even though she knew there was nowhere to go. The beast lowered its head, its nostrils flaring as it caught her scent. Its pupils dilated, the yellow glow intensifying. Muscles coiled beneath its scaled skin, its tail lashing in anticipation. It let out a low, guttural growl, saliva dripping from its fangs. Amara's heart raced, her breaths coming in short gasps. Her body screamed at her to run, to flee from the predator before her, but the chain held her fast, cold and unyielding. There was no escape. The beast took another step, its claws digging into the sand, leaving deep furrows behind. Its eyes never wavered, locked on her like a hunter stalking its prey. It was only a few paces away now, its enormous head lowering until it was level with hers. Amara felt its hot breath wash over her, smelling of smoke and earth. Her legs trembled, but she forced herself to stand tall. Her father's voice echoed in her mind once more. Courage is facing fear, not the absence of it. She swallowed hard, her voice barely a whisper. "You're not a monster, are you?" The beast froze. Its glowing eyes widened, a flicker of confusion crossing its face. It tilted its head, the yellow light dimming slightly as it continued to stare at her. The crowd fell silent, their chants dying in their throats. Confused murmurs rippled through the stands. The beast had never hesitated before. It was a creature of war, a weapon of destruction. It did not pause, it did not question, it only obeyed. Amara's heart skipped a beat. She could see it now, beneath the scales and the horns, behind those glowing eyes. There was intelligence, understanding, and something else, something almost human. The beast's head lowered, its massive snout just inches from her face. Amara's body went rigid, every muscle tense, but she held her ground. She looked into its eyes, unblinking. "You don't want to hurt me, do you?" The beast let out a low rumble, its muscles relaxing as its eyes softened. It leaned closer, pressing its snout against her trembling hand. Its scales were warm, rough under her fingers, but it did not pull away. A single tear slipped down Amara's cheek, her voice breaking. "You're just lonely, aren't you?" The beast closed its eyes, letting out a sound that was almost a whimper. It curled its massive body around her, shielding her from the world outside. Its tail wrapped protectively around her, its head resting beside hers, warm and heavy. The crowd gasped in disbelief, their voices rising in outrage and confusion. From his throne above, the overlord's face twisted in fury. "Impossible!" he roared, his voice echoing through the arena. "It defies its nature!" Amara hugged the beast's head, her fingers tangling in its scales. "You're not a monster," she whispered. "They just made you one." The beast let out a low purr, its body relaxing as it curled tighter around her. For the first time in its existence, it felt peace. From above, the overlord's eyes burned with anger. "Prepare the shock collars," he commanded. "If it will not obey, we will force it to." As guards moved to carry out his order, Amara clung to the beast, her voice fierce and determined. "I won't let them hurt you," she vowed. "I promise." The metallic clank of armored boots echoed through the arena as the Zargathian guards descended the spiral staircases from the overlord's balcony. Their faces were hidden behind dark visors, their movements rigid and mechanical. Each guard carried a long metal rod, crackling with electric energy. They marched in perfect unison, their weapons ready to enforce the overlord's will. Amara's arms tightened around the beast's head, her fingers gripping its rough scales. She could feel its steady breathing, the powerful rise and fall of its chest beneath her touch. It was warm, alive, not the mindless monster they claimed it to be. She looked up as the guards formed a circle around them, their rods sparking with ominous blue light. One guard stepped forward, his voice cold and hollow through his helmet. "Step away from the creature, human. It must be disciplined." Amara's heart pounded, but she shook her head fiercely. "No! I won't let you hurt him." The guard's visor tilted downward, his body rigid with impatience. "This is not your decision. Move, or be moved." The beast's eyes flickered open, its glowing yellow gaze locking onto the guards. A low growl rumbled in its throat, its muscles tensing protectively around Amara. Its tail curled tighter, a shield between her and the approaching weapons. The lead guard's grip tightened on his rod, the electric current humming louder. The beast defies its nature. It must be corrected. One of the overlords shouted from above, his voice dripping with disdain. It dares to disobey. Show it no mercy. Amara's fear boiled into anger, her small frame trembling with defiance. He's not just some creature for you to control. He's not a weapon. Her voice wavered, but her eyes blazed with determination. He's my friend. The arena fell silent, the Zargathian spectators exchanging confused glances. A friend? It was unthinkable. Humans were prey, and the beast was a predator. Yet here she stood, refusing to let them harm it. The lead guard hesitated, his weapon wavering. A friend? It is a beast. It was bred for destruction. It knows no compassion. Amara looked down at the creature curled around her. Its massive body was scarred, its scales worn from centuries of battle, yet its eyes were soft, glowing gently as it watched her, with an emotion she recognized. Fear. Not of her, but for her. She reached out, her fingers brushing against its snout. He's not a monster. You made him one. Her voice was soft, but her words echoed through the arena, cutting through the stunned silence. All he's ever known is pain and violence, but that's not who he is. It's what you forced him to be. The beast let out a low whine, its massive head pressing against her hand, its eyes closed, the glowing yellow dimming to a warm amber. It was seeking comfort, trust flowing through the bond they shared. The lead guard took a step back, his grip faltering. This cannot be. It does not have emotions. It does not care. Amara stood taller, her shoulders squared as she faced the guards. He cares. He chose not to hurt me. He chose to protect me. Her voice was steady, unwavering. He's more than just your weapon. The beast rumbled in agreement, its tail tightening protectively around her. Its eyes flicked to the guards, a warning growl vibrating through its massive body. It would fight to keep her safe. The overlord's face twisted with fury, his hands clenched around the arms of his throne. Enough of this insolence. Activate the shock collars. The guards snapped to attention, their movements mechanical as they pulled metal devices from their belts. Each collar was large, designed to encircle the beast's massive neck. Blue sparks danced along the edges, the energy humming ominously. Amara's heart dropped, fear gripping her chest. She threw herself over the beast's head, her arms wrapping around its neck. "No, don't do this!" She looked up, her eyes pleading. "He hasn't done anything wrong." The lead guard hesitated, his posture rigid with uncertainty. "Our orders are absolute. The beast must obey, or it must suffer." The beast let out a low growl, its massive body shifting as it stood, towering over the guards. Its eyes glowed fiercely, its scales bristling with tension. It would not allow them to harm Amara. Not again. The overlord's voice boomed from above, cold and merciless. "If it will not submit, then make it suffer until it breaks." Amara's grip tightened, her body trembling with fury. "You're the real monsters. You don't even care that he's in pain." She looked down at the beast, her voice softening. "I won't let them do this to you. I promise." The beast's eyes softened, its head lowering until its massive snout rested against her shoulder. It let out a soft, mournful sound, its body trembling beneath her touch. A guard stepped forward, his rod crackling with electricity. "Move aside, human. This is your final warning." Amara stood her ground, her chin lifted defiantly. "You'll have to go through me first." The guard's visor tilted, his body tensing as his weapon sparked with energy. "So be it." He swung the rod toward her, the electric current hissing through the air. But before it could reach her, the beast roared, a sound so powerful it shook the arena walls. Its massive tail whipped through the air, knocking the guard backward, his body slamming into the metal wall with a sickening thud. The other guards stepped back, their weapons raised defensively. But the beast stood its ground, its body coiled protectively around Amara. It bared its fangs, its eyes blazing with fury. Amara looked up, her eyes wide with awe. You? You saved me! The beast head lowered, its glowing eyes locking onto hers. There was no malice, no hunger, only loyalty. From above, the overlord's face twisted with rage. Insolent creature, it dares defy me? Increase the power. Break its spirit. The guards scrambled to obey, their weapons humming louder as they advanced, the air crackling with electricity. The beast let out a low growl, its muscles tensing as it prepared to fight. Amara's heart raced, her hands tightening around its rough scales. She could feel its body trembling, its fear hidden beneath its protective stance. They were going to hurt it, break it, just to make it obey. No, she whispered, her voice breaking. I won't let them hurt you, not anymore. The beast looked down at her, its eyes softening. It rumbled softly, pressing its snout against her hand. It trusted her. Amara's jaw tightened, her green eyes blazing with determination. We're getting out of here, together. The beast let out a low, approving growl, its massive body coiling around her protectively. It was ready to fight, ready to protect. From above, the overlord's voice echoed through the arena, cold and merciless. Show no mercy, crush the defiance out of it. The guards advanced, their weapons sparking with lethal energy, but as they closed in, the bond between Amara and the beast grew stronger, defying the cruelty of the Zargathian overlords. Together, they would fight for their freedom. The arena crackled with electric energy as the Zargathian guards closed in, their weapons humming with deadly intent. The air was thick with tension, the cold metallic scent of ozone mingling with the dust kicked up by the advancing soldiers. Their black armor gleamed under the dim lights, their faces hidden behind motionless visors. Amara's heart raced as she stood defiantly in front of the beast, her small body dwarfed by its massive form. She could feel the heat radiating from its scales, the rumble of its growl vibrating through her bones. Yet, despite its power and size, it stood protectively over her, its tail curled around her like a living shield. The lead guard's voice cut through the air, cold and mechanical. The creature defies its purpose. It must be subdued. Do not hold back. The guards tightened their formation, their electric rods sparking with bright blue light. They moved as one, synchronized and merciless, their weapons aimed at the beast's exposed flank. Amara's eyes widened as she realized their intent. They were going to hurt him. They were going to force him to obey, to break his spirit until nothing remained but a hollow, obedient shell. She spun around, her hands pressing against the beast's massive chest. We have to get out of here, she urged, her voice trembling. They won't stop until they've broken you. The beast's golden eyes flicked down to her, a softness in its gaze that seemed almost human. It let out a low rumble, pressing its massive snout against her shoulder. It understood her fear, her desperation, and it wasn't going to let them take her away. The lead guard's voice crackled through his helmet. Shock collars. Now! The guards moved swiftly, activating the heavy metal collars that sparked with lethal electricity. They hurled the devices at the beast, the metal coils spiraling through the air, aimed to latch onto its neck and limbs. Nunjo, Jin, no! Amara screamed, her voice echoing through the arena. She threw herself over the beast's head, her arms spread wide. Leave him alone! The beast's eyes blazed with fury, its protective instincts ignited by her courage. It reared back, its massive body unfurling as it let out a roar that shook the walls of the arena. The sound was deafening, a cry of defiance and rage that reverberated through the metallic stands. The shock collars froze mid-air, repelled by the sheer force of the beast's roar. They clattered to the ground, their electric charge fizzling out in harmless sparks. The guards stumbled backward, their formations breaking as fear rippled through their ranks. Amara's jaw dropped, her eyes wide with awe. You did that? The beast lowered its head, its golden eyes locking onto hers. It rumbled softly, pressing its snout against her chest. It was no longer just a creature of destruction. It was her guardian, her protector. Above, The overlord's face contorted with fury, his skeletal hands clenching the arms of his throne. "Insolent beast! It dares defy me?" His eyes narrowed, his voice dripping with venom. "Deploy the sentinels. If it will not obey, then it will be destroyed." The arena trembled as the walls slid open, revealing massive metal doors. From within, a new threat emerged. Towering machines of war, their bodies encased in steel and armor, their eyes glowing with cold red light. They moved with mechanical precision, their metal limbs crushing the sand beneath them as they advanced. Amara's heart sank. What are those? The beast's eyes narrowed, its muscles coiling beneath its scales. It let out a low growl, its stance widening protectively around her. It knew these machines. It had faced them before. The sentinel's arms unfolded, revealing cannons that hummed with deadly energy, their red eyes locked onto the beast, their targeting systems aligning with merciless precision. Amara's pulse quickened, her fingers curling into fists. "We can't fight those, we have to run." She looked up, her eyes pleading. "Please, get us out of here." The beast's head lowered, its golden eyes blazing with determination. It rumbled softly, its tail curling around her. It understood her words, her fear. It would protect her, no matter what. With a powerful leap, the beast sprang forward, its massive body clearing the circle of guards with ease. Its claws dug into the metal walls, sparks flying as it scaled the arena with astonishing speed. Amara clung to its back, her arms wrapped tightly around its neck as the world blurred around them. The crowd erupted in chaos, their shrieks and hisses filling the air. They watched in disbelief as the beast defied its nature, fleeing with the human child instead of devouring her. The sentinel's cannons whirred, beams of red energy slicing through the air. The blasts exploded against the walls, sending shards of metal raining down. But the beast was fast, its powerful limbs propelling them higher, faster, toward the open ceiling. Amara's heart raced, her hair whipping around her face. She could feel the beast's muscles straining beneath her, its body coiled with tension and fear. "Hold on!" she cried, her fingers tightening around its scales. "We're almost there!" The sentinels fired again, their beams scorching the air just inches from her head. The beast roared in defiance, its body twisting as it dodged the deadly blasts. Above them, the arena's ceiling began to close, the metal panels grinding together with a deafening screech. The overlord's voice echoed through the arena, cold and merciless. "You will not escape, not this time." Amara's eyes widened as the gap grew smaller, the light fading. No, we won't make it." The beast's golden eyes flicked up, its body tensing. It let out a roar that shook the air, its muscles coiling as it leapt upward with all its strength. The world seemed to slow as they soared through the air, the ceiling closing around them. They were going to be crushed. Amara buried her face in the beast's neck, her arms tightening as she braced for the end. But at the last moment, the beast's tail whipped forward, slamming into the closing panels with explosive force. The metal buckled, the ceiling jamming just wide enough for them to slip through. The light blinded her as they burst free, the cold air of the outside world washing over her. They were flying, soaring above the arena, the ground far below. Amara gasped, her heart leaping with hope and terror. We did it." The beast roared in triumph, its powerful wings unfurling as it carried them higher, away from the cruel arena and the overlord's wrath. For the first time, they were free. But as they soared above the clouds, Amara's joy was tinged with fear. They had escaped, but the overlord would not let them go so easily. He would send everything he had to hunt them down. She buried her face in the beast's scales, her voice trembling. "They're going to come after us. They won't stop until they've destroyed you." The beast's golden eyes narrowed, its wings beating fiercely against the wind. It let out a low growl, its resolve unbreakable. It would protect her, no matter the cost. Together, they flew into the unknown, their bonds stronger than ever, defying the cruelty of the overlords who sought to tear them apart. But the battle for their freedom was far from over. The wind howled around them as the beast soared through the clouds, its powerful wings cutting through the air with each determined beat. Amara clung tightly to its neck, her heart racing as she looked down at the vast, alien landscape below. Jagged mountains rose like the spines of a sleeping giant, their peaks crowned with ice. Rivers of molten lava snaked through the valleys, casting an eerie orange glow that danced across the sky. But they were not alone. From behind, a low hum filled the air, growing louder with each passing second. Amara twisted around, her eyes widening with fear as she saw them. The Sentinels. Their metal bodies gleamed under the pale light, their wings unfolding as they gained speed. Red lights flickered along their frames, locking onto their target. "They're coming!" Amara's voice trembled, the fear tightening her chest. "They're not going to let us go!" The beast's golden eyes narrowed, its muscles coiling as it beat its wings harder, faster. It roared, the sound echoing across the mountains, defiant and unyielding. It would not allow them to be captured, not again. The Sentinels' cannons hummed, glowing with crimson light. They fired in unison, beams of energy slicing through the sky, aimed to kill. The beast twisted sharply, its body banking to the left as the blasts whizzed past them, scorching the air. Amara's fingers tightened around its scales, her heart leaping into her throat. "Hold on!" she cried, her voice lost in the wind. The Sentinels were relentless, their wings spreading as they dove closer, their cannons charging for another attack. Their metal bodies moved with mechanical precision, their eyes glowing with cold, red light. Amara's mind raced, panic clawing at her. "We can't outrun them! They're too fast!" She looked up at the beast, desperation in her eyes. "What do we do?" The beast let out a low growl, its gaze flicking to the mountains below. It rumbled softly, its body shifting beneath her. It had a plan. Amara's eyes followed its line of sight, her breath catching as she saw the narrow canyon carved between the peaks. The passage was treacherous, barely wide enough for the beast's wingspan, but it was a chance. You're gonna fly through that?" Her voice wavered, her heart pounding. "Are you crazy?" The beast rumbled again, a low, playful sound that almost sounded like a chuckle. Its golden eyes glinted with determination, its body tensing as it angled downward. Amara's eyes widened, a mixture of fear and awe flooding through her. "Okay, I trust you." With a powerful beat of its wings, the beast plunged toward the canyon, its massive form slicing through the air like an arrow. The wind roared around them, the jagged peaks rushing closer, faster, until they were surrounded by towering walls of stone. The Sentinels followed, their metal bodies folding inward as they pursued. Their cannons hummed, energy building as they prepared to fire. But the canyon walls were narrow, the turns sharp and unpredictable. The Sentinels struggled to maintain formation, their movements jerky as they weaved through the labyrinth. The beast moved with grace and precision, its wings folding as it twisted between the cliffs. Its body dipped and spun, its tail whipping through the air as it navigated the deadly turns with ease. Amara held on tight, her body pressed against its scales as they spiraled through the canyon, the world blurring around them. The Sentinels were not as agile. The lead machine fired, the blast ricocheting off the stone walls, narrowly missing them. It tried to adjust its path, but the turn was too sharp. Its metal wing clipped the rock, sending it spiraling out of control. It crashed into the canyon wall, exploding in a shower of metal and fire. Amara's eyes widened. You're doing it! You're outsmarting them!" The beast let out a triumphant roar, its body coiling as it dove through another tight passage. It twisted and turned, its movements fluid and powerful, a living shadow darting between the cliffs. One by one, the Sentinels fell, their metal bodies crashing into the stone as they struggled to match the beast's agility. Their cannons fired wildly, the beams slicing through the air before exploding harmlessly against the rocks. Only one remained, its eyes blazing with red light as it powered up its main cannon. It hung back, calculating its attack, waiting for the perfect shot. Its body hummed with energy, its weapon glowing with deadly intent. Amara's eyes locked onto the Sentinel, her heart stopping as she saw the light building. "No! It's going to shoot!" The beast's golden eyes narrowed, its body tensing. It could feel the energy building, the heat radiating from the cannon. It knew what was coming. With a mighty roar, the beast flared its wings, slowing its descent as it spiraled toward the ground. The sentinel fired, the beam of red energy slicing through the air, aimed directly at them. The beast twisted sharply, its body coiling as the blast missed by inches, carving a smoking trench into the canyon floor. The sentinel's eyes flickered, recalculating its trajectory. It fired again, the beam scorching the rock beside them. Amara's breath caught in her throat, her fingers digging into the beast's scales. "We can't dodge forever. It's too strong." The beast's eyes flicked to the canyon wall, its muscles coiling with tension. It growled softly, its body shifting beneath her. It had one last move left. Amara's eyes widened as she realized what it was planning. No, you can't. You'll get hurt." The beast rumbled, its golden eyes softening as it pressed its head against her hand. It let out a low, mournful sound, its wings folding as it dove toward the canyon wall. The sentinel's cannon glowed, its energy reaching critical mass. It fired, the beam of light tearing through the air, aimed to destroy. At the last moment, the beast twisted, its body curling as it slammed into the canyon wall. The impact sent rocks and debris raining down, the cliffside crumbling as the stone gave way. The avalanche buried the sentinel, its body crushed beneath the falling rocks, its eyes flickered, the red light fading as it powered down, buried beneath the rubble. Amara gasped, tears stinging her eyes as she looked down at the broken rocks below. You did it." But the beast was hurt. Its body trembled, its scales cracked and bleeding from the impact. It let out a low whimper, its wings folding as it collapsed onto the canyon floor. Amara slid off its back, her hands trembling as she pressed against its side. No, please don't leave me," she whispered, her voice breaking. "You saved me. Don't go." The beast's golden eyes softened, its head lowering as it nuzzled her hand. It let out a soft purr, its body relaxing as it curled around her protectively. Amara buried her face in its scales, her tears soaking its rough skin. "You're not just a beast. You're my friend." The beast rumbled softly, its eyes closing as its breathing slowed. But its body remained wrapped around her, its tail curled protectively. It had fulfilled its promise. It had kept her safe. Amara held it close, her heart breaking as the wind whispered around them. "I'll never forget you," she vowed. Never. Together they lay beneath the alien sky, their bond unbroken, even as the stars whipped for the creature that had chosen love over fear.